The bells of Blackwood Manor had never sounded so mournful. It was barely noon, yet the sky above the estate was the color of iron. Rain swept across the enormous stone courtyard, striking the windows like impatient fingers. Inside the great hall, servants moved quietly, afraid that even the slightest sound might disturb the man standing before the fireplace. Duke Adrian Blackwood. He was 32, feared by half the county, and respected by nearly everyone who had ever met him. Tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed entirely in black, Adrian had the cold expression of a man who had learned long ago that kindness was a weakness others could exploit. Today, however, even his composure was strained. His mother stood behind him. "You cannot continue refusing," the Duchess Dowager said. Adrian's jaw tightened. "I have refused nothing. You refused her 3 times. I refuse the marriage. You are marrying her today." He turned slowly. "I am not marrying a stranger simply because 2 families have decided it would be convenient." His mother sighed. "It is not convenience. It is survival." That word silenced him. Blackwood had once been one of the most powerful families in England. But years of poor harvests, political enemies, and expensive legal disputes had drained much of the family's fortune. The marriage would restore their position. Adrian hated that. He hated even more that he had no choice. Before he could answer, the massive front doors opened. Every conversation in the hall stopped. A young woman entered. She was alone. No father, no brother, no mother. Only an elderly maid followed several steps behind her. Adrian stared. She was not dressed like a woman arriving to claim a duke's fortune. Her ivory traveling gown was elegant but remarkably simple. There were no diamonds around her throat, no elaborate jewels in her dark brown hair. Her face was pale, but her eyes were strangely calm. She walked toward him without hesitation. "Your Grace," her voice was soft. Adrian gave a stiff bow. "Lady Eleanor." She looked at him for a moment. Then she smiled faintly. "I suppose we should get married." Several servants exchanged nervous glances. Adrian's mother almost smiled. Adrian did not. "You seem remarkably comfortable with the situation." "I am not." "Then why aren't you afraid?" Eleanor lowered her eyes. "Because being afraid will not change it." That answer caught him off guard. He studied her carefully. There was something unusual about this woman, something he could not understand. "You know what people say about me?" he asked. "Yes." "And you still came?" "Yes." "You know I did not want this marriage." "Yes." His voice became colder. "Then perhaps you should know something else. I have no intention of pretending to be a loving husband." Eleanor looked directly into his eyes. "I wasn't expecting one." For the first time, Adrian had no answer. The wedding took place less than an hour later. There were no musicians, no celebration, no laughter, only a handful of witnesses and the sound of rain against the chapel windows. When the priest declared them husband and wife, Adrian barely looked at Eleanor, but Eleanor looked at him, and for the briefest moment, something crossed her face. Not happiness, not fear, something closer to sadness. Adrian noticed it. He simply chose not to care. After the ceremony, the newlyweds returned to Blackwood Manor in silence. At dinner, Eleanor sat across from him. She barely touched her food. Adrian finally spoke. "You don't like the house. It is beautiful. You don't like the food. It is perfectly fine. Then why aren't you eating?" She hesitated. "I am not hungry." He watched her carefully. "You have barely eaten since arriving." "I said I am not hungry." There was something behind her answer. Adrian leaned back. "Very well." The rest of dinner passed in silence. Later that night, Eleanor was shown to the bedroom adjoining Adrian's. The Duke stopped at the doorway. "This room is yours." She looked around. "Thank you. My study is at the end of the corridor." She nodded. "You are not to enter it." Her expression changed slightly. "I wouldn't." "Good." He turned away, then stopped. "One more thing." She looked at him. "You will have everything you need. Clothes, servants, jewelry, whatever you wish. But do not expect affection from me." Eleanor's face remained calm. "I don't." Adrian frowned. "You keep saying that. Because it's true. Then what exactly do you expect from this marriage?" For several seconds, she said nothing. Finally, she whispered, "To survive it." Adrian stared at her. But before he could ask what she meant, Eleanor closed the door. That night, Adrian lay awake for hours. He told himself it was because the marriage had disrupted his routine, because the rain was too loud, because he had too much work. But none of those things were true. He kept thinking about her final words, "to survive it." The next morning, Adrian discovered something else strange. Eleanor was gone. Her breakfast remained untouched. Her maid claimed she had gone for a walk. Adrian found that suspicious. Blackwood Manor had extensive gardens, but the rain had turned them into mud. He looked through the window. Near the old greenhouse stood Eleanor. She was speaking to someone, a man. Adrian immediately moved toward the door, but before he reached the garden, the stranger disappeared behind the trees. Eleanor returned moments later. When she entered the house, Adrian was waiting. "Who were you speaking to?" She stopped. "No one. I saw you." Her face became pale. "I was speaking to a gardener." "There are no gardeners in that part of the estate." Silence. Adrian stepped closer. "Who was he?" "I don't know." "You expect me to believe that?" She looked at him. "No." The answer irritated him. "Then tell me the truth." "I can't." "Can't." She swallowed. "Not yet." Adrian's expression hardened. "You are my wife. There should be no secrets between us." Something almost like pain appeared in her eyes. "You have no idea how dangerous that sentence is." Before he could respond, she walked away. Adrian remained standing in the corridor. For the first time since their marriage, he wondered whether he had made a terrible mistake. That evening, he returned to his study. He found the door unlocked. He always locked it. Always. Adrian entered slowly. Nothing appeared disturbed. The books were exactly where he had left them. The fireplace was untouched. His desk was clean. Then he noticed something. A small piece of white paper lay beneath one of the books. He picked it up. There was only one sentence written on it: "Do not trust your wife." Adrian stared at the words. His first instinct was anger. His second was suspicion. And his third was something far more dangerous: fear. Because beneath the message was a symbol he had not seen since his father's death. A black rose. Adrian slowly closed his fist around the paper. Somewhere upstairs, a door quietly shut. And suddenly, the Duke realized his new wife had not come to Blackwood Manor by accident. The black rose remained in Adrian's hand long after the candle beside his desk had burned low. He knew that symbol. Years ago, his father had received letters bearing the same mark. They had arrived without a name, without an explanation, and always carried warnings about enemies Adrian's father refused to discuss. Then, one winter morning, the Duke had been found dead. The official explanation had been a riding accident. Adrian had never believed it. Now the same symbol had appeared in his study, and someone had told him not to trust his wife. He folded the paper and placed it inside his desk. Then he locked the drawer. He would not confront Eleanor yet. If someone wanted him suspicious of her, Adrian intended to discover why. The following days changed the atmosphere inside Blackwood Manor. Adrian began watching his wife. He noticed things he had previously ignored. Eleanor rose before sunrise. She rarely slept more than a few hours. She often stood beside the windows at night, staring toward the road as if waiting for someone. She received no letters. She sent none. Yet every morning, she seemed to know what was happening beyond the estate. One afternoon, Adrian entered the library unexpectedly. Eleanor was standing beside a bookshelf. She immediately closed a book. "What are you reading?" he asked. "History." "Which history?" "English history." Adrian walked closer. He looked at the book in her hands. It was not a history book. It was a collection of political speeches from 20 years earlier. "Interesting choice." She said nothing. Adrian held out his hand. Eleanor hesitated before giving him the book. He opened it. Several pages had been marked, not with ink, with tiny folds. Adrian examined the pages. Every marked section concerned the royal family. "You have an interest in politics." "No." "Then why mark these passages?" Eleanor looked toward the window. "Because sometimes the past explains the present." That sounds like something a spy would say. Her eyes returned to him. Perhaps you should stop asking questions. Adrian's expression hardened. You are in my house, and you are in danger. The words came out so quickly that even Eleanor seemed surprised. Adrian stepped closer. From whom? She looked away. I don't know. You're lying. Yes. The honesty of the answer startled him. You admit it? I don't know how else to answer you. Adrian studied her face. She wasn't behaving like a guilty woman. She was behaving like someone terrified that the truth would hurt someone else. That night, Adrian followed her. Eleanor left her room shortly after midnight. She moved silently through the dark corridor, carrying a small lantern. Adrian followed at a distance. She passed the main staircase and entered an unused wing of the house. The door at the end of the corridor opened with a soft creak. Adrian stopped outside. He listened. A few moments later, he heard Eleanor whispering, I told you I couldn't do it. A man's voice answered, You have no choice. Adrian's blood ran cold. He moved closer. You married him for this reason. Eleanor whispered, I married him to protect him. Protection is no longer enough. There was silence. Then the man spoke again. The Crown already suspects you. Eleanor's voice trembled. If they discover the letters, they will arrest you. Adrian's hand tightened around the doorframe. Letters. What letters? Before he could hear more, the floorboard beneath his boot creaked. Silence filled the room. Adrian stepped back. The door suddenly opened. Eleanor stood there. Her face was pale. The stranger was gone. Adrian stared at her. Who was that? No one. You expect me to believe that again? She closed the door behind her. You shouldn't have followed me. And you shouldn't have been meeting men in secret at midnight. Her expression changed. You don't understand. Then explain it. I can't. Why? Because if I tell you, you will become involved. Adrian laughed bitterly. I am already involved. You are my wife. Eleanor looked at him for several seconds. Then she whispered, That's exactly what I'm afraid of. She walked away. Adrian remained there. For the first time, anger gave way to confusion. He wanted to hate her. It would have been easier. But every time he looked into her eyes, he saw fear rather than deceit. 2 days later, Adrian received an invitation to the royal palace. The message was short. His Majesty requests the Duke of Blackwood's immediate presence. Adrian knew instantly that it concerned Eleanor. He arrived at the palace before sunset. The king was waiting. So was Lord Harrington, the Crown's most trusted advisor. Adrian bowed. Your Majesty. The king looked at him carefully. How is your wife? Adrian's expression remained neutral. She is well. Does she speak of her family? No. Does she receive visitors? Not that I know of. Lord Harrington stepped forward. You should be careful, Your Grace. With what? With the woman you married. Adrian's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you suggesting? Harrington lowered his voice. Lady Eleanor's father was once accused of passing confidential information to our enemies. My wife's father was never convicted. No. Then why are you warning me? Because some accusations do not disappear simply because evidence does. Adrian said nothing. The king then spoke. We have reason to believe someone inside the royal household has been passing information to a foreign power. Adrian's expression hardened. And you believe my wife is involved? We believe she knows something. That was different. Very different. Adrian returned home after midnight. He found Eleanor sitting alone in the library. A single candle illuminated her face. She looked exhausted. You went to the palace, she said. Yes. Her eyes dropped. What did they ask? Adrian walked toward her. They asked about you. She closed her eyes. I was afraid of that. Why? She stood. Because they are looking for someone to blame. Are you innocent? Eleanor looked at him. Yes. The answer was immediate. Adrian believed her. He hated that he believed her. Then tell me what is happening. I can't. You keep saying that, because every answer puts you in greater danger. He stepped closer. Perhaps I can decide what risks I am willing to take. Eleanor's voice softened. You shouldn't have to. For a moment, neither spoke. The distance between them seemed suddenly smaller. Adrian noticed the faint tear on her cheek. Without thinking, he reached toward it. Eleanor froze. His fingers brushed her skin. Then she stepped away. "Don't." Adrian lowered his hand. "Why?" "Because I don't want to forget why I came here." "And why did you come here?" Her eyes filled with tears. "To save you." Before Adrian could respond, she left the room. That night, Adrian could not sleep. He went to his study. He opened the locked drawer. The black rose message was still there. He looked at it for a long time. Then he noticed something he had missed before. The paper had been folded twice. He opened it completely. A second sentence was written on the inside. "The letters are hidden where the Duke trusts no one." Adrian stared at the words. His study, his private room, the place where he trusted no one. His eyes moved slowly toward the bookshelves, then toward the old writing desk, and finally toward the locked cabinet beneath the window. For the first time, Adrian wondered whether Eleanor had been searching for something inside his study, and if she had, what exactly was she trying to find? He walked toward the cabinet. Behind him, the door to the study slowly opened. Adrian turned. Eleanor stood in the doorway. She was holding a bundle of old letters against her chest. Her face was full of terror. "Your Grace," she whispered. Adrian stared at the letters. "Where did you get those?" Eleanor's hands began to tremble. "I was going to tell you." "When?" She looked at him helplessly. "When it was too late for anyone to stop what is coming." Adrian took one step toward her. "What is coming?" Eleanor looked down at the letters. Then she whispered the words that changed everything. "They are going to accuse you next." Adrian stood completely still. "They are going to accuse me." Eleanor nodded. The letters trembled in her hands. "For what?" She looked toward the locked study door. "For treason." For a moment Adrian thought he had misheard her. Then he laughed once, without humor. "Treason? They believe you have been helping the crown's enemies. And you know this because I have seen the evidence." Adrian's expression changed. "What evidence?" Eleanor slowly placed the bundle of letters on his desk. "These." He stared at them. The paper was old, yellowed at the edges, and sealed with dark red wax. Several bore the crest of the royal household. Adrian picked up the first letter. His eyes moved across the page. It contained details about military movements. Another contained information about royal meetings. A third mentioned payments made to foreign agents. And at the bottom of every letter was a signature. A. Blackwood. Adrian's blood ran cold. "That isn't my handwriting." "I know. Then why are these here?" "Because someone wants the crown to believe you wrote them." Adrian looked at her. "How long have you known?" "Before I married you." His face hardened. "So that is why you agreed to this marriage?" "Yes." "You were sent here?" "No." "Then why?" Eleanor swallowed. "Because your father once saved my life." Adrian froze. "My father?" She nodded. "Years ago, before his death, your father discovered that someone within the royal court was selling secrets. He tried to expose them." Adrian's mind raced. "My father died in a riding accident. He was murdered." The room seemed to become colder. "Who told you?" "My father." "Your father knew. He was one of the men helping yours." Adrian looked down at the letters. "Then why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because the people responsible were too powerful." "Who?" Eleanor shook her head. "I don't know. You expect me to believe that?" "I wish I had more answers." Adrian picked up another letter. This one was different. It was addressed to Eleanor. He opened it. Only one sentence had been written. "Your marriage is the final piece. Once the Duke trusts you, Blackwood will fall." Adrian looked at her. "What does this mean?" Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. "I don't know." "You're lying again." "No. You have been in my house, searching my study, meeting strangers, carrying secret letters, and you expect me to believe you don't know what is happening?" "I know enough to be afraid." "Of whom?" Eleanor whispered. "Everyone." Suddenly, a loud crash came from the corridor. Adrian turned. Someone had entered the house. He immediately moved toward the door. "Stay here." Eleanor grabbed his arm. "No." "Why?" "They're looking for the letters. Then they won't find them." He opened the door. The corridor was empty. but one of the candles had been knocked from its holder. Adrian walked toward the staircase. Eleanor followed. "Your Grace." He raised a hand. Silence. Then they heard footsteps below. Someone was moving through the servants' corridor. Adrian drew the pistol hidden beneath his coat. He descended the stairs slowly. The footsteps stopped. A shadow moved across the wall. Adrian raised the weapon. "Come out." Nothing. He moved forward. Then a man suddenly ran through the side door. Adrian chased him into the courtyard. Rain poured down. The stranger climbed onto a waiting horse. Adrian fired. The horse bolted into the darkness. The rider disappeared. Adrian returned to the house. Eleanor was waiting in the hall. "Did you see his face?" "No." She closed her eyes. "Then we have very little time." Adrian looked at her. "What happens now?" "They will know the letters are missing." "Who?" "The people who sent them." Adrian stared at her. "You said the letters were hidden." "They were." "Where?" "In your study." He looked toward the room. "But I never found them." "Because they weren't hidden for you." "Then for whom?" Eleanor hesitated. "For me." Adrian stepped closer. "What does that mean?" Eleanor took a breath. "Before our marriage, I was given instructions to find the original letters your father kept." Adrian's expression hardened. "You were searching for your father's evidence." "Yes." "And you found it?" "Part of it." "Where is the rest?" "I don't know." Adrian stared at her. Then something occurred to him. "If you were searching for the letters, why did you never tell me?" "Because I didn't know whether you were involved." "With the conspiracy?" She nodded. "You thought I might be a traitor?" "I didn't know." "And now?" She looked directly into his eyes. "Now I know you aren't." Something in Adrian's chest tightened. For the first time he realized how much she had risked. She had entered his home believing he might be the enemy, yet she had stayed. She had protected him, and she had allowed him to hate her rather than reveal the truth. "Why did you let me hate you?" he asked. Eleanor looked down. "Because it was safer." "For whom?" "For you." Adrian took another step. "You could have told me. If I had, you would have trusted me." "Yes. And whoever was watching us would have known we were working together." He said nothing. She continued. "So I let you believe I was cold, selfish, difficult. I let you think I wanted your title and your fortune. You made it very convincing." A faint, sad smile appeared on her face. "I had to." Adrian looked at her for a long moment. Then he noticed something. A small red mark around her wrist. "What happened?" She quickly pulled her sleeve down. "Nothing." He caught her hand. "Eleanor." She tried to pull away. "Let go." "Who did that?" "No one." His voice became colder. "Don't lie to me." She looked at him. For the first time, Adrian saw genuine fear in her eyes. "They came to me yesterday." "Who?" "I don't know." "What did they want?" "The letters." "And when you refused?" She said nothing. Adrian understood. His grip loosened. "They threatened you." "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew what you would do." "What would I do?" "Protect me." He stared at her. "And that is something you don't want." "No." Her voice softened. "It is something I cannot afford." Adrian released her hand. Then he looked toward the letters on his desk. "We will solve this together." Eleanor shook her head. "No. You don't get to decide that." "I do if it keeps you alive. I am already involved. You don't understand how powerful these people are." "I don't care. You should." Adrian stepped closer. "Eleanor, you became my wife the moment we exchanged vows. Whatever danger you brought into this house is now mine too." She stared at him. Neither spoke. Then Adrian gently took the letters from the desk. "We need to know who forged my signature." Eleanor nodded. "And we need to find your father's original evidence." "And the man who attacked the house tonight." "Yes." Adrian looked at her. "And we need to know why the Crown believes you betrayed them." Eleanor's face changed. "There is one more thing." "What?" She reached into the pocket of her dress and pulled out a tiny silver key. Adrian recognized it immediately. It belonged to the locked cabinet beneath his study window. "Where did you get that?" "Your father gave it to me." Adrian stared at the key. "My father? He told me to give it to his son only when I knew he could be trusted." Adrian slowly took it. "What is inside?" Eleanor looked toward the study. "I don't know." Then let's find out. They returned to the study. Adrian unlocked the cabinet. The door opened with a long creak. Inside was nothing except a small wooden box. He lifted it out. There was no lock. Inside the box lay a single folded document. Adrian opened it. His father's handwriting appeared before him. Only 3 words were written across the page: "Trust no one." Beneath those words was a list of names. Adrian read the first, then the second, then the third. His face slowly lost its color. The final name belonged to the most powerful man in the kingdom, the king's closest advisor, Lord Harrington. Adrian looked at Eleanor. She whispered, "Now you understand why I was afraid." But before Adrian could answer, a distant church bell rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then every candle in the manor suddenly went out. From somewhere in the darkness came the sound of a woman's scream, and Adrian realized the conspiracy had just entered Blackwood Manor. The scream echoed through Blackwood Manor. Adrian immediately reached for Eleanor. "Stay behind me." They stepped into the corridor. The house was completely dark. Servants shouted from downstairs. Doors opened. Footsteps rushed across the floors. Then a second scream came. This time Adrian recognized the voice. In Mrs. Whitmore, the old housekeeper. Adrian grabbed a candle from the wall and ran toward the servants' quarters. Eleanor followed. They found Mrs. Whitmore collapsed beside the kitchen door. Adrian knelt beside her. Who did this? The old woman struggled to breathe. A man. What man? He was wearing. Her eyes closed. Eleanor crouched beside her. She's alive. Adrian looked toward the open back door. Rain blew into the kitchen. The intruder was gone, but something lay on the floor. A black rose. Adrian picked it up. His expression hardened. "They know we found the list." Eleanor's face went pale. "Then we have to leave." "No. Adrian, no." He looked at her. "Running is exactly what they expect, but they'll come back. Let them." Eleanor stared at him. For the first time, the cold duke who had married her seemed to have disappeared. In his place stood a man who had finally decided he had something worth fighting for. "You said my father trusted you," Adrian said. "Yes. Then tell me everything." Eleanor looked down. "I don't know everything. Tell me what you know." She took a slow breath. "Your father discovered that someone close to the crown was selling military information. He collected proof, but before he could expose the traitor, he was murdered. And your father? He helped investigate. What happened to him? He disappeared." Adrian's eyes narrowed. "Disappeared? 3 weeks before your wedding. So that's why you came here?" "Yes. To find him. At first. And now." Eleanor looked at him. "Now I believe he is dead." Silence filled the room. Adrian noticed tears in her eyes. He reached toward her. This time she didn't step away. "You should have told me. I was afraid. Of me. Of what would happen if I trusted you. And now." She looked into his eyes. "Now I'm more afraid of losing you." Adrian's heart stopped for a moment. He gently touched her cheek. "You won't." Eleanor closed her eyes. For the first time since their wedding, there was no distance between them. Then footsteps sounded upstairs. They separated immediately. Adrian drew his pistol. "Stay here." "No. Eleanor, I know this house better than you think." She reached into her dress and pulled out a small knife. Adrian stared. "You've been carrying that?" "Yes." A faint smile appeared on his face. "You truly are full of surprises." They moved through the corridor together. The footsteps stopped near Adrian's study. When they reached the door, it was open. The wooden box was gone. Adrian's blood ran cold. The document, gone. He entered the room. The cabinet had been emptied, but something remained on the desk, a letter. Adrian picked it up. "Your Grace, you have spent weeks believing your wife was hiding something from you. You were correct, but you were wrong about what she was hiding." Adrian's eyes moved to the next line. "She did not marry you to destroy your family. She married you because she was ordered to protect the man who would inherit your father's enemies." Adrian looked at Eleanor. She was standing completely still. The letter continued. "Ask her what happened the night your father died." Adrian's expression changed. He lowered the letter. "What happened the night my father died?" Eleanor closed her eyes. "I was there." Adrian stared at her. "What?" "I was there. You saw him? Yes. And you never told me? I couldn't. Why? Because your father made me promise. Promise what? To protect you. Adrian stepped toward her. From whom? Eleanor's voice broke. From the man who killed him. Who? She looked at him. Lord Harrington. Adrian's entire body went still. No. Yes. You're certain? I saw him. Adrian shook his head. My father trusted Harrington. That is why he was able to get close. Why didn't you expose him? Because I was 17. Adrian stared. You were there at 17? Yes. And Harrington saw you? No. Then how did you survive? My father helped me escape. Adrian's eyes filled with anger. My father saved you. Yes. And you came here to repay him. Yes. He looked away. All the memories of his childhood suddenly felt different. His father's warnings, his mother's fear, the unexplained letters, the riding accident, everything connected. Then Adrian remembered something else. The forged letters, the black rose. Harrington had access to the crown. He had access to old records. He had access to the investigation. And now he had access to Adrian's wife. Adrian turned to Eleanor. We need to leave tonight. She shook her head. They'll watch the roads. Then we won't use the roads. There is nowhere safe. There is. He walked toward the old bookshelf. He pulled a particular book. A hidden passage opened behind it. Eleanor stared. I didn't know that existed. My father showed it to me when I was a child. Adrian took her hand. Come. They entered the narrow passage. It led beneath the manor and emerged near the old chapel. But before they reached the exit, Eleanor stopped. What is it? She was staring at the wall. Carved into the stone were the words, "The truth lives where the dead are remembered." Adrian looked at her. The family crypt. They returned to the manor through another entrance. The crypt was beneath the chapel. Adrian unlocked the ancient iron door. Inside, the air was cold. Stone tombs lined the walls. They searched until Eleanor stopped before Adrian's father's grave. Here. She pointed toward the stone. There was a tiny mark beneath the family crest, a black rose. Adrian touched it. A hidden compartment opened. Inside was a leather-bound journal. His father's journal. Adrian opened it. Page after page contained names, dates, payments, and evidence. Then he reached the final entry. If I die, the person responsible will attempt to control my son. He will use the crown. He will use my name. And he will use the woman I trusted most. Adrian looked at Eleanor. His heart sank. The woman he trusted most. Eleanor whispered, "Your mother." Adrian's face changed. My mother? Yes. The next page was missing. Adrian turned the journal over. A small envelope had been hidden inside the cover. It contained a final letter. He opened it. Adrian, if you are reading this, then I am dead. Trust Eleanor. She knows the truth I could not reveal. But there is one thing she does not know. Adrian's eyes moved down. The conspiracy began inside our own family. He stopped reading. Eleanor looked at him. What does it say? Adrian slowly raised his eyes. Before he could answer, they heard footsteps above the crypt. Someone had entered the chapel. Then a man's voice echoed through the stone corridor. Duke Blackwood. Adrian extinguished the candle. Eleanor moved closer. The voice continued. Your wife has lied to you. Adrian whispered, "Stay behind me." The crypt door began to open, and standing beyond it was Lord Harrington. But he wasn't alone. He had 6 armed soldiers with him. Harrington smiled. Your Grace, I believe it's time we discussed your wife's treason. Adrian raised his pistol. Harrington's smile disappeared. Put the weapon down. No. Then you will die exactly as your father did. Eleanor stepped forward. Adrian, don't. Harrington looked at her. You have caused enough trouble. Then he revealed a sealed royal warrant. I have orders for your arrest. Adrian stared at the document, then at Eleanor, then back at Harrington, and suddenly he understood. The marriage had never been about money. It had never been about family alliances. It had been a trap, but not the trap he had imagined. The real trap was designed to bring Eleanor into Blackwood Manor so Harrington could finally find what Adrian's father had hidden. And now, they had found it first. Harrington raised his hand. Take them. The soldiers stepped forward. Adrian grabbed Eleanor's hand. Run. They turned toward the darkness of the crypt, and behind them, Harrington shouted, Don't let them reach the journal. Adrian and Eleanor disappeared into the underground passage, but neither of them noticed the second figure waiting in the shadows ahead. A woman. A woman Adrian knew better than anyone, his mother, and she was holding a loaded pistol. Adrian stopped the moment he saw her. His mother stood at the end of the passage, a pistol aimed directly at Eleanor. For one terrible second, nobody moved. Mother. The Duchess Dowager's face was pale. I told you to stay away from this. Adrian stared at her. You knew. I knew enough. You knew father was murdered. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes. And Harrington. He threatened your father. He threatened me. He promised that if I spoke, you would be next. Adrian's voice broke with anger. So you helped him. I had no choice. You always have a choice. She lowered the pistol slightly. No, Adrian. Not when the person you love most is being held at gunpoint. Eleanor suddenly understood. You protected your son. The Duchess looked at her. And you protected mine. For a moment the two women simply stared at one another. Then the Duchess handed Adrian a small key. Your father's final evidence is hidden beneath the chapel altar. Adrian took it. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid you would do exactly what you're doing now. Fight. Die. A gunshot exploded through the passage. The Duchess fell. Mother. Adrian caught her before she struck the stone floor. Harrington appeared at the entrance. You should have listened. Adrian's face became cold. He gently placed his mother down. Then he stood. Eleanor grabbed his arm. Adrian, we need to go. No. He looked toward Harrington. This ends tonight. Harrington raised his pistol. You have nowhere to run. Adrian smiled faintly. You're wrong. He pulled Eleanor toward the hidden exit. They reached the chapel. Adrian unlocked the altar compartment. Inside was a packet of documents sealed with his father's crest. He opened them. There were payment records, witness statements, copies of royal orders, and finally, a confession, signed by Harrington himself. Adrian looked at Eleanor. We have him. No, she whispered. What? She pointed toward the chapel doors. Harrington stood there. He had followed them. But this time, Adrian was ready. He held up the confession. It's over. Harrington laughed. You think anyone will believe a dead man's papers? Adrian looked toward the chapel entrance. You're forgetting something. Harrington turned. Royal soldiers filled the doorway. At their center stood the king. Harrington's face went white. Adrian had sent one of the household servants through the hidden passage with a message. The king stepped forward. Lord Harrington. Harrington dropped his weapon. Your Majesty, I can explain. You will. The king took the confession from Adrian. He read it in silence, then looked at Harrington. You murdered Duke Blackwood. Harrington said nothing. You forged documents. Silence. You manipulated the crown. Harrington finally collapsed to his knees. I did what was necessary. The king turned away. Take him. The soldiers dragged Harrington away. The chapel became silent. Eleanor looked at Adrian. It is over. He shook his head. Not yet. He turned toward his mother. She was still alive. The bullet had struck her shoulder. Later that night, the doctor confirmed she would recover. When Adrian returned to his study, Eleanor was standing beside the window. The room looked different now. The secrets were gone. The lies were gone. Only the two of them remained. Adrian walked toward her. You should have told me. I know. You should have trusted me. I know. You should never have let me believe you hated me. She looked down. I didn't want you to care about me. Why? Because caring about me would have made you a target. Adrian stopped in front of her. You were already my wife. Eleanor looked into his eyes. Was that ever enough for you? He reached for her hand. No. She looked surprised. Adrian smiled. It wasn't enough because somewhere between pretending to hate you and trying to uncover your secrets, he paused. I fell in love with you. Tears filled Eleanor's eyes. You hated me. I was very convincing. She laughed through her tears. So was I. Adrian gently touched her cheek. Are you still afraid? A little. Of what? Of what happens now? He pulled her closer. "Now you stay." She smiled. "Is that an order, Your Grace?" "No." His voice softened. "It is a request." Eleanor rested her head against his chest. For the first time there were no guards outside the door, no secret letters, no hidden enemies, no reason to pretend. Weeks later, the truth became public. Lord Harrington was arrested and stripped of his position. The evidence recovered from Blackwood Manor exposed years of corruption inside the royal court. Adrian's father's name was cleared, and Eleanor was no longer known as the mysterious woman who had married the Duke. She became the Duchess of Blackwood. But one evening, while Adrian was sorting through his father's remaining papers, he discovered one final envelope. It had Eleanor's name on it. He handed it to her. She opened it. Inside was a short note. "My dear Eleanor, if Adrian ever learns the truth, tell him this. I did not ask you to protect him because he was my son. I asked because I knew one day he would need someone strong enough to love him when he could not love himself." Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Adrian read the note over her shoulder. He looked at her. His voice was quiet. "Father knew." "Knew what?" "That I would love you." Eleanor smiled. "And did he know you would pretend to hate me first?" Adrian laughed. "I suspect he knew me very well." She folded the letter. Then Adrian pulled her into his arms. Outside, the bells of Blackwood Manor began to ring. This time they did not sound mournful. They sounded like the beginning of something new. A marriage that had begun as a bargain had become a love neither of them had expected, and the woman Adrian once pretended to hate became the one person he could never imagine living without. Because sometimes the greatest secrets are not kept to destroy a heart. Sometimes they are kept to protect it. And sometimes the person you were never supposed to love becomes the person you were always meant to find.